Do you like podcasts about music? About computer equipment and games where you try to determine whether or not news is real or made up on the spot? Well, then you might just like the Void podcast, run by Eldritch Terror, the keeper of the drum. Though, he won't admit to that. He's far too clever for that. If everything else about the show sounded good, however, you might want to check out the Void podcast. Greetings. We need to discuss queer stuff. Yes, this is the episode in which I finally get into that abortion of would-be children's programming, queer kids stuff. For those of you in my audience blissfully ignorant of what queer kids stuff is,
welcome to Queer Kid Stuff.
It is a show in which Lindsay and best friend Teddy endeavor to educate children ages 3 and up about such topics as gender identity, cross-dressing, and consent. In short, to confuse the utter hell out of children at best. The very name of the show is incompetent. At age 3 especially, children barely have a concept of what they are at all. Therefore, queer kids at that age don't really exist. And thus we have a show that is not so much concerned with catering to a target audience, as in creating a target audience. Now, I have taken a lot of time before touching on queer kid stuff. I think I might have held a certain naive hope that I could just ignore it and eventually it would go away. But it hasn't gone away. You see, queer kid stuff has connections. Queer kid stuff, despite a negligible Patreon funding, has a production team and is being pushed in magazines like Cosmo and Teen Vogue, the latter of which ran an article which is what prompted this creation. Yes, Teen Vogue ran an article citing Quick Kill Self as a source proving that even toddlers understood consent. But the Queer Kids Stuff episode showed no such thing. The article itself would have been a perhaps forgettable bit of clickbait hackery, even if it was in a magazine for the underaged, but when you combine it with the Queer Kids Stuff article, it just gets so much worse. Why, let's take a look at the video itself.
Today we're talking about consent. You ready, Teddy?
Ready.
Teddy?
Yes, Lindsay?
Have you noticed that I always ask you if something is okay before I do it? Ready, Teddy? You ready, Teddy? Ready, Teddy?
I guess so.
And that I always wait for you to say yes before I keep going?
Ready. 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 Yes.
Well, that's what consent is. Consent is about consenting or giving permission to someone for something.
So, saying yes is consent.
Yes. Saying yes to someone is giving that person your consent. The easiest example is sharing. When someone asks you to share your toy with them, you can always say yes or no. When you're playing with someone, you should share your toys because it's a nice thing to do, but you always have that choice to give or not give consent.
When was the last time you heard the term consent used in regards to sharing toys? Which, of course, you should do. That's the nice thing to do, right? Is your skin crawling yet?
If the answer is yes, there's no need to stress. We could play dress up or we could even play chess. The answer is not yes, then it means no.
Why, there's even an adorable little ukulele song about it. But at the end of the show, what do we have here?
Consent is fun to sing about.
I think so too, Teddy.
Lindsay,
Yes?
can I do the outro this time?
Of course. Thanks for asking.
Uh-oh. Someone didn't say yes, which means by the show's educational lesson, they said no, and yet Teddy closes out the show anyway. That rather confuses things, doesn't it? And when we're talking about consent in a show for children, sexual consent being what led to it, it's a touch alarming indeed. Now, I'm not saying the people at Teen Vogue are all pedophiles, or that Teen Vogue has a staff comprised of pedophiles. I can't say that. What I can say is that Teen Vogue is staffed with utter idiots. To run an article like this, so poorly written, especially in the wake of the Teen Vogue Guide to Teen Anal Sex for the Prostate Havers and Prostate-less? Yes, idiots, fools, or worse. Nor, by the way, can I really say that the creators of queer kids stuff are pedophiles. I wouldn't. But when you create a video on consent for children and botch the lesson this badly, to result in a video so loathsome it gets a seal of approval from Heart Progress, the pro-pedophile Twitter movement? No. Lindsay, I think it's time that you found a responsible adult and showed them on Best Stuff Friend Teddy where the bad people touched you. Meanwhile, if you know anyone who has their children watch queer kid stuff, then at least threaten to call CPS, won't you? Until next time, progress continues. Ostensibly.
Thank you so much for watching Queer Kid Stuff. If you have any questions about consent, you can always ask your grown-up. Thank you to our supporters over at Patreon.